What can DNA teach you about encryption, and why does it even matter? Hi, this is Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com. I got the website, the training. Go visit it, check it out. Look, the important thing is I have this message here for you today. We all know it doesn't take much to watch the news or the current events and see that people are being busted for crimes, heinous crimes that they committed 20, 30 years ago. In the 70s and the 80s, people did crimes, serial murders, and all sorts of things. Evidence was collected and kept, and they weren't even sure. Why would you? The case is cold, the case is dead, but they've kept the evidence. And now that DNA sequencing is so affordable, and because of all of the family tree and genealogy websites that people have submitted their DNA to, they are scooping up bad guys in ways that no one could have imagined, maybe even 10 years ago, 12 years ago, certainly not 20 years ago. The lesson for you here is our encryption, the things that we're using today, even though people today can't crack the encryption, or not easily, not cheaply, even though people can't crack the encryption today, the messages that you send, the logs of your activities, the things that you're doing that are currently your credit card transactions are all protected by very strong encryption by today's standards. But in 2 years or 12 years or 20 years, it will be laughable, and people will rip through that encryption like it was tissue paper. And you might think, what does it matter? That kind of those things evaporate into the internet, into ones and zeros. Nobody knows or cares. I'm convinced a large portion of that stuff, maybe most of it, is being vacuumed up and kept, and not just by nation states, and maybe not even just by large companies, but it's being kept because storage is so cheap and easy. Now think about it. If a bloody sweatshirt from the 70s, someone has taken the time to keep that in an evidence room and to pay the lease on the building and the upkeep on the building and come in and fix the furnace and repair it and do the roof repairs. How much money was spent to preserve that box of evidence that all of a sudden has turned into a conviction for a bad guy, which is wonderful. Preserving our digital trail, preserving our messages, our transactions, not a free thing, but way cheaper than anybody would have ever imagined. And why wouldn't it be preserved? Even just from a logs point of view, if you run any sort of website or anything, you know there are logs that go on in the background, visitors, those types of things. Why would that not be kept by the hosting company? Okay, so now the tough part. If the encryption is going to fail and not be your protection in the future, how do you compensate for that? And there's no really good answer. As a person who's in this industry, as an investigator, a lot of times you'll look at a problem, you'll look at a case, you'll look at a facility if you're doing a security survey, and you'll say, where are the weak points? And that's where you will approach it as an investigator. Turn it around. Look at your case. Look at the way you do things. Look at it from the other side and say, look, if I were to try to crack the identity on this person, if I was to try to figure out what's going on here, where do I see the weak points at? If there's a failure, where is it going to be, and how can I take advantage of it? And then set up and protect those points to an even greater extent. Add more layers of security. It's going to take some creative thinking on your part. Fortunately, you're an investigator, and that's what you do, is you do some really creative problem solving. Normally, you do it to find out the truth, to gather evidence. But in this case, turn it around. Look at yourself. The same way you might walk around your house and say, where are the weak points? And you know right now, okay, that back garage door, if I lean on it hard enough, it kind of just does pop open. Now is the time to reinforce that. Fix the hinges, put a deadbolt on it, take care of it. The fact that nobody knows about it now does not mean they won't figure it out in the future. Same thing with your digital life. I have been a little bit negligent in sharing with you my free report. If you want to be a private investigator, give up unless you do these 3 things. If you're interested in that, you can get it over at ShadowAnyone.com. Right on the home page, there's a place over on the right hand side. You can pop in your name and email, click, and get that free report. I think you'll find a lot of information that's kind of interesting there, and it will move you forward in your investigative career. In the meantime, this is Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com. Remember, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing.